Hi, my name's Nicholas Hydes. I'm from Hallsville, Christchurch, and you have my permission to use this video. You've got a series of questions about the Christchurch Canterbury earthquakes, and I'll attempt to answer them as best I can. In the first earthquake, which was the large one centred on the Greendale Fault, which is about 40 kilometres from our house, it was an early morning earthquake in September 2010, fine frosty morning. The first sensations we got in the house was of a loud rumbling noise coming like a big truck coming down the road. Then the house started to shake quite violently, and pretty much it just kept ratcheting up and up until the whole house was virtually getting racked from one side to another. At which stage it was too strong to be able to stand. Everybody in the house obviously woke up, and when it settled down, everyone was a little bit shocked. My first reaction was to the power went out, so to get some light, and then just check through the house for any injury to any of the people in the house, and then once that was ascertained that everyone was safe, move around the house and see what sort of damage had been done to the house, which nothing was really evident. For the size of the earthquake, we didn't have much broken in the way of furniture or televisions or any crockery or anything like that. A few things had fallen off shelves, but nothing too bad at all there. Yeah, from checking our own house, we sort of moved out into the neighbourhood and around neighbours, and everybody sort of had a bit of a get together. By this time, some sort of 5-10 minutes later, that's when sort of the liquefaction started coming up through the ground, and our property wasn't affected so much by that. But a lot of the neighbours had quite severe liquefaction, and over the following days, it was quite an effort to dig that all off their properties and pile it up in the road so trucks could take it away. I think out of the 5 houses that were most badly affected with liquefaction, there was probably about 13 large truckloads got trucked away. Personally, I didn't feel any really bad effects of the earthquake. With the consequent aftershocks, you're always waiting for another big one to come, and some of those were quite big. Like I think on the 23rd of December there was quite a large aftershock which closed quite a lot of the buildings and malls in Christchurch and around the suburbs. Straight after that first Christchurch earthquake, one of our daughters was living about 10 kilometres away in some rented accommodation which didn't fare very well, and also the neighbourhood there was affected badly by liquefaction, so it was still dark in the morning. We got in the car and went over to meet her. I've got a 4-wheel drive, so if there was anything wrong with the roads, we could handle that, we hoped, which we did. To get her sort of some fuel and that, of course everybody rushes to the service station, so it was quite a mission to get some fuel in her car so she could bring her and a partner and the wee baby over to live with us for the next few days. So for the first few days after that earthquake, we had quite a house full. There was water restrictions in Christchurch. We have a gas hob in the house, so we were fine for cooking. Heating, we only have electric heating, but luckily the power was restored quite quickly, and water, we had to get drinking water. You couldn't use the tap water. And fortunately for us, the sewers weren't badly damaged, so we could still flush toilets and have showers. We did dig the hole in the back garden just in case. From other relatives, just phones and cell phones, we got in touch with everybody quite quickly. No one in our family was injured, and to to my knowledge, none of my friends in the wider circle of friends had any injuries. A lot of them had some quite close calls. We did have some significant property damage to our house and the surrounding houses. Our house was overcapped for EQC, so it was handed into being repaired by the insurance company, and 5 of our immediate neighbours got completely rebuilt houses. It was about 4 years after that Christchurch earthquake that we had our repairs started, so we had to move out of the house into rented accommodation for 6 months, which is quite difficult because most landlords want to sign you up for a year. So we were fortunate that we got a letting agent that could find us a place for 6 months, and just shifting house, getting animals sorted out for the few days while you shift house and everything like that, and then 6 months later having to shift all back in was a bit of a hassle. Pretty much the things that stick with me after the earthquake is really the how it brought our little neighbourhood together. We live in a cul-de-sac. Everyone became quite close after that, and we do a lot of activities around the neighbourhood together. So it's built a stronger community in our little neck of the woods. The second earthquake, that was the February the 22nd, 2011 earthquake, and that was the most severe earthquake in Christchurch, where over 180 people lost their lives. That happened at just close to 1 o'clock, so when most people are having lunch. I work out in Darfield, which is about 45 kilometres out of Christchurch, and we had some of our retailers visiting the warehouse, looking at ranges and things like that. So we experienced a significant shake of the building, and pretty much thought that it was just another large aftershock. It was just on 1 o'clock, which is when we normally have our break for lunch, so we all came into our lunchroom, turned off the radio, sat down and had our lunch, and then after lunch when we got up, we turned the radio back on and started hearing reports of the severe damage in Christchurch and the possible loss of lives and people being trapped in like the CTV building and the Pinegold Guinness building. So our boss sort of said, right, get home to your families. So we all locked up the warehouse here and headed off into town. For me to drive home, it's a fairly straightforward drive normally. We live on the outskirts of Christchurch, so I don't have to go through any compulsory stop signs or traffic lights to get home, but the amount of traffic that was on the road all trying to get into Christchurch was significant, and it took a long time to get home. Trying to contact family by cell phone was virtually impossible because the networks were jammed with calls. When I got home, everybody, it was ascertained that everybody was safe and well. Again, my daughter that lives over on the far side of town, their area was significantly affected. The quickest way to get there was to get on my mountain bike and just basically ride straight through Christchurch, which by that stage the CBD red zone had been established, so that was a total no-go area with police and army blocking that off. And I called past one of our retailers who was on the way, and he was fairly shaken up by it. There's a lot of building damage, a lot of damage to the roads, a lot of liquefaction, a lot of people just walking home out of Christchurch. And I got over to my daughter's place. There was parts of the road where you'd ride down and it would be a foot deep in the liquefaction and water sort of, and cars sort of sitting in potholes, so you didn't know whether you were going to drop into a pothole or not. I got over there, everything was fine over there, so again we just made plans as soon as the roads freed up to go over and shift my daughter and her wee baby back home. And then pretty much it was by that stage in the early evening, power had been restored to our suburb, and we pretty much spent a lot of time watching the live news feed on the television. There was a lot of helicopters and that flying over the CBD, and also you could see the smoke coming out of the CTV, so it was a pretty surreal experience. And really that's pretty much my recollections of it. It's something that don't really want to have to live through again, and obviously we've since had the Kaikoura earthquakes, which we certainly felt them in Christchurch, but we didn't suffer any significant damage at all. But Kaikoura and the coastline has certainly been a big upheaval there.